Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some seriously fascinating source material regarding the absolute frontier of human AI decision systems. If you've been paying any attention to how AI is being deployed in high-stakes environments, finance, healthcare, critical infrastructure, the documentation points to a massive structural breaking point. Basically, we're rapidly moving from asking, hey, which AI model should we use, to, wait, how do we structurally govern the systems that actually house these models? So let's explore this massive architectural paradigm shift together. Now, the urgency of this whole shift really comes down to one absolutely massive number, 35 million euros. That's the maximum fine, or up to 7% of a company's global annual turnover, under the EU AI Act's high-risk provisions. And listen, this isn't some distant theoretical threat anymore. This is the very real reality facing deployers right now. We are officially past the era where a quick apology and a software patch will cut it when an AI makes a critical error. Which brings us face to face with a pretty terrifying question, right? When an AI system breaks the rules, who actually pays the price? Right now, the tech world is in a bit of a panic, mostly characterized by this build first, govern later mentality. The old paradigm was basically deploy a model, observe what it does in the wild, and then try to slap some constraints on it when it misbehaves. But the source material for today's explainer makes a bold claim. That kind of post hoc compliance is structurally failing. Regulation is literally being written faster than compliance infrastructure can absorb it. We need a fundamental architectural inversion.
Okay, let's get into Section 1. What exactly is the Lattice, the governance-first cognitive operating system? So, at its core, you've got to understand that the Lattice isn't just some post hoc monitoring tool you plug in at the end. It's a governance-first cognitive operating system. What that means is auditability, principal enforcement, and human oversight are foundational primitives compiled directly into the architecture from day one. Governance isn't an overlay added to the AI. It's the actual substrate from which the AI operates. The whole system is anchored by these non-negotiable structural laws, or what they call invariants. Let's walk through them. First, coherence is greater than power, meaning a system has to remain internally consistent under pressure, even if it means sacrificing some raw compute power. Then, attention behaves like gravity. It's this finite field that bends the trajectory of cognition, not just a currency to be spent. Reversibility first simply means no action can be irreversible by default. Silence is structural, points out that you actually need low-noise states to let weak signals survive. And finally, entropy is honest, showing that structural decay reveals hidden costs. These aren't just neat ideas, They are the immutable laws governing the entire architecture.
Moving on to Section 2, what the Lattice isn't. Let's strip away some of this jargon. To truly get how revolutionary this is, we kind of have to destroy our preconceived notions of what AI compliance currently looks like. Traditional compliance is completely post hoc. You deploy a system, wait for it to do something risky, observe it, and then try to constrain it. The Lattice flips this entirely. It's governance first. Auditability and compliance are defined at design time. The architecture itself enforces compliance structurally, continuously, and by construction. And this brings us to a really crucial distinction: guardrails versus boundaries. Most companies talk about putting guardrails on their AI, right? Like a policy engine evaluates a decision and tries to stop the AI from driving off the road. The Lattice, instead, defines boundaries. It dictates where the road can even be built in the first place. Bad AI behavior isn't just denied. Within the Lattice, it's structurally impossible for that decision path to even exist. We also have to totally rethink the human element here. The Lattice isn't built for casual users just chatting with a stateless software assistant. Instead, it requires what's called a cognitive operator. This is a brand new professional class, a credentialed, individually accountable human practitioner. Just like a licensed structural engineer or a CPA, the cognitive operator bears actual institutional accountability for the reasoning paths their governed systems produce. The AI doesn't hold the liability, the credentialed operator does. All right, Section 3, how the Lattice operates. Let's look at the mechanics of compliance. So how does the Lattice actually enforce these boundaries without, completely breaking the AI? Well, the architecture is powered by a few specialized modules. The CCE, or Constraint Cartography Engine, constantly maps out regulatory boundaries. The CFC ensures everything follows a standardized contract format. The VARA function acts kind of like radar, constantly scanning the environment for unknown regulatory changes. But pay special attention to the audit payload. This performs what the Lattice calls a walking data audit. Instead of pausing the AI to inspect it, these non-invasive, reversible payloads just walk right alongside the AI, capturing its decision states in real time without ever disrupting its internal flow. It's brilliant.
All of those subsystems actually interact within this continuous, bilateral 5-phase runtime loop. It starts off with altitude initialization, getting the system's focus aligned. Then, constraint mapping maps out the structural field. Coherence stabilization ensures the system doesn't break under a heavy load. Entropy governance handles decay and any weird, unexpected variables. And finally, gradient formation generates the actual directional cognitive movement. This governed loop repeats continuously, maintaining total stability and ensuring the AI's output is always perfectly aligned with the cognitive operator's intent.
Which brings us to Section 4, Why You Should Care. Let's talk about the regulatory reality. Now, you might be sitting there thinking this all sounds super theoretical, but I promise you the era of unregulated AI scaling is definitively over. The Genius Act already made continuous audits mandatory for stablecoin issuers way back in July 2025. And as of today, August 16, 2026, the EU AI Act high-risk enforcement hammer has officially dropped. That transforms the Lattice from a fascinating theoretical idea into an absolute, urgent necessity. If your company falls under Annex 3 high-risk domains, you are already legally required to maintain continuous structural oversight. I really want to highlight this incredibly powerful quote from the source material. The question is no longer whether AI needs governance architecture, the question is who defines it. Honestly, if you wait around for the government to hand you a prescriptive compliance tool, you've already lost the game. The organizations that adopt governance by design frameworks right now are the ones who will dictate the vocabulary and the professional expectations of the entire field moving forward. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative question to chew on. Is your AI architecture genuinely built to survive a continuous walking data audit? Because if governance is just an afterthought that gets slapped on at the end of your deployment, you're already structurally compromised. Thank you so much for joining me today. I highly encourage you to dig deeper into how your own organization is defining its boundaries. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.